Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on another episode of Extreme Health Radio. It's fun to be back. Been off the microphone for about 3 to 4 weeks, and it's been really great to have some time off, go to Palm Springs and sit in the sun here, and so it's been really, really fun. And thank you for joining us. This is episode number 61 here of Extreme Health Radio. So you can check it out if you're interested at extremehealthradio.com/61. We've got a great guest today, Annie Jubb. She's going to be talking with us about LifeFood, healing, and liver and gallbladder cleansing, and all kinds of great stuff. So that's going to be a really great episode. Stay tuned. I'll introduce her in just a moment. And I want to let you know we're broadcasting worldwide from Southern California. And right now we do shows 3 days a week, actually 4 days a week, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So feel free to tune into those. And for reference, today is Monday, February 11th, 2013. Time is flying by. I know I say that all the time, but it's just amazing how quick time goes. If you're interested in asking any guest a question, please just email me. I'd love to get your emails, justin@extremehealthradio.com, or you could call our voicemail line and leave a voicemail that I can play on the air, and that is 949-391-7363, and I can play your message to our guest directly. And this show is brought to you by Amazon.com. And if you would like to support us by purchasing from Amazon, you can do it, and we'd get a little commission for your order, and it would be a great way to support us. You can check that out if you're interested at extremehealthradio.com/Amazon. Before I introduce Annie Jubb, I want to talk about our guests coming up. On Wednesday, February 13th, we've got Janice Barcelo. She runs a website called birthofenewearth.com, and she'll be talking about natural birthing and hospital births and all of that kind of creepy stuff. So that should be a good show. I'll have my wife listen to that, hopefully. And then on Friday, February 15th, I could say that, we've got Stephen Huer, and he runs Synergistic Nutrition. He's got a product called One World Way that we really, really like. So we'll be talking to him about nutrition and cleansing, and he's really switched on to things. And then on Monday, on February 18th, we've got Daniel Vitalis, and he'll be talking about rewilding and all kinds of crazy stuff that he's into. We love Daniel Vitalis, so that should be a good show. And Annie Jubb, I'm excited to have her on. She's an author, and she's written the LifeFood recipe book and Living on Life Force, as well as Secrets of an Alkaline Body, the New Science of Colloidal Biology. I'll be really interested to talk to her about the alkaline body situation. And she's a pioneer in bio-based nutrition and the use of natural food as medicine. And she's been teaching this stuff since 1989 and lecturing around the world, around the country, sometimes 200 days a year. So she's a real master at the liver and gallbladder flush and healing and cleansing and running the Jubb's 14-day LifeFood nutritional fast. So she's really been into this stuff, so it's fun to have her on, and she's calling in all the way from LA. So thanks for joining us, Annie. I appreciate that.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So you're all the way up in LA, right?
I am. I'm in Hollywood, and I live in LA now. So here I am.
Yeah. So you came originally. You were in New York for a long period of time, weren't you?
Yeah, for a good long while, and I had a restaurant there called Jubb's Longevity. It was more like a little deli, kind of life food deli, and then in the end of '08, I closed that, and then I moved it out here, so now I have a little cafe that's a 20-minute walk from my house, which makes it really nice for me, but it's called LifeFood Organic.
Oh, nice. So, you know, my wife and I were just up in, I'm really kicking myself, because we were just up in Hermosa Beach yesterday. Was that anywhere near you?
Not really.
Oh, okay, good.
It's not too far away, but it's not real close by anyway. We're right in Hollywood. It's right, at Cahuenga and Sunset. So it's close to like Amoeba Records, and CNN building is right there.
Okay, cool. I was hoping I didn't miss out, because on the way home, when we just got home, I thought, oh man, we're right there. We could have gone visit Annie Jubb.
Well, don't kick yourself too hard. It's not too close.
Okay, well that's good. And you, from going back and forth over some of the emails, you do a lot of running. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, I don't think I do that much running. I could always do more, but I run pretty much 4 days a week, 5 days a week, depending. And I'm really close to a couple of canyons here, so there's a pretty good elevation gain.
Okay.
And I just love it. I mean, the canyons are just part of the miracle of Los Angeles, and they make it really livable for me, because you can really kind of feel like you're in nature, though you're right in the heart of the city, you know?
Yeah, there's something about doing that intense uphill exercise. I love doing that myself, and I love it much more than doing like really long distance runs. Do you find that too?
Yeah, I do. I actually kind of hated it when I first moved out here because I was, living in Manhattan, so there's no hills there. You're running along the river.
Right.
That's about it. And so I really had to kind of fall in love with it. And now I really, really like it. You just get so much more of a heart workout, a good lung workout, and then of course your legs look a lot better too because you're actually just climbing up, like a 600-foot elevation gain, right?
Right.
Yeah, now I really enjoy it, I have to say.
So,
you fall in love with it.
Do you do other forms of exercise, or is running your kind of main thing, or what kinds of things do you do?
No, I do a lot of things. I do a lot of yoga, kind of, acrobatic style yoga, if you will. A lot of standing on your head and kind of contortion things. And then I do a bit of weightlifting. I'm actually just trying out 3 new gyms this week to see which one I'm going to land on, but I wanted to get one that was closer to my house. And there's a bunch of good, it's in Los Angeles, so there's some good gyms here, but I'm training for a half triathlon. I think I mentioned to you in one of my emails, but so I need a place where I can really work on, do cycling as well, because I can do long cycling trips, but I actually just need to train a bit harder. So I'm going to be doing that, and then I found a couple of pools nearby that are actually hotel pools that don't have any chlorine in them. I'm really sensitive to chlorine, so all these gyms have swimming pools, but they just reek of chlorine, and I can't do it.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because last night I spent some time in the jacuzzi with some people, some friends, and gosh, that chlorine is just I feel like it's so toxic. Is it? Is chlorine really that bad?
It really is. It's like drinking a glass of chlorinated water. It's pretty bad. And for me too, like I've got really kind of white blonde sun bleached hair, so it'll actually turn it a little bit of green at the at the tip, which has happened to me all my life. When I was a little girl, I'd swim in chlorinated pools with before I knew the problem with it, and always my hair would turn a little bit green at the bottom. So anything that's going to turn your hair green,
not good.
Stay away from it. Not a good. Don't go there.
Yeah, not so hot. I've heard, I'm not sure if this is true, but I've heard that a lot of the Olympic swimmers and things like that, I've heard they have like a lot of health challenges later on in life because, they're spending like 8 hours a day in those chlorinated pools and things. Oh,
yeah. Well, and the problem, or the challenge with that now is that there's no reason for it, There's no real reason for it. You can have a saltwater pool, or you can have... there's a guy here in Los Angeles called William Lindling, and he has a website called, I think it's either Ozone Oxygen or OxygenOzone.com, and he sent all the water from my house, and then all my friends, and I just rent my house, but all my friends that own their houses and have swimming pools and jacuzzis and stuff, he just goes in and puts a filter on it. You can drink your swimming pool water, and you should really be able to do that if you're going to sit in it for hours at a time. It should be water that you can drink,
Wow. So you're a fan of alkaline water and things like that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So is the swimming pool, would that be like a really highly alkaline so that it kind of does the same thing as the chlorine and kills bacteria and things, or how does that work?
Well, it's just a really good filtration system, that's the only reason chlorine is there is because the filtration system is either non-existent or it just doesn't filter things that well. But you put a 9-stage water filtration system on there, and then, any kind of little amoeba or whatever would be in there, it just doesn't exist. It's filtered out.
Wow.
Rather than just trying to, throw a bunch of chemicals in there.
Yeah, I was sitting in that jacuzzi last night, and we were there for a couple of hours, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like taking a chlorinated shower it just really was in my mind, but we do the best we can, right?
Well, we do the best we can.
Yeah. So
was it worth it? Probably, right?
I know. So with your training, I'm just curious because I like to do, training and things like that too. When you do a lot of training for like the marathons and things like that, do you change your diet up at all? Do you eat a different style diet for a little while, or what do you do in terms of how that goes?
I just try to eat more, and more often. Like right now, I'm just a little bit lazy with eating in general. Like I generally get a lot of my nutrition through smoothies, or I take a lot of, juices throughout the day and that type of a thing. So right now I'm just really focusing on like eating before I actually go for a run. my natural inclination is just to get up, drink a lot of water, and go for a run, you know. And right now I'm just training harder, and so, you know, I'm actually getting up, you know, having a smoothie, digest that a little bit, hydrate really well, and then go out for a run, you know.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoons, I'm trying to eat a couple of little small meals during the day, and then in the afternoon I'll hit the gym, or I'll go to a yoga class, or I'll do like a second run, or I'll go over to the west side and bicycle for an hour and a half, you know, that type of a thing. So I'm just trying to eat more right now.
Yeah.
And generally I'm eating, you know, like more dense, calorie-dense foods too, more spirulina in my diet, that type of thing.
So you're not eating like a bowl of pasta before a run, no?
No, I'm not.
Shocking. I thought you would be doing that. Yeah, no, that's the big thing with marathon people, huh? They just load up on like pizza and pasta and all that like the night before a run, don't they?
Yeah, and you know what I found too. Well, I mean, you're going to burn that really fast. I mean, so there are foods that, you know, like pasta and stuff like that, you can eat, you know, I guess before you go for a run, but there's going to be a residue there, and it's also a mucus-forming food and whatever. So there's a lot of downsides to it. But like in New York, just before the marathon, they have this big pasta feed the night before, and everybody comes in and has a big pasta feed. Yeah. What I found though with marathon runners is if they, instead of just putting like, you know, electrolytes or water in their what do they call those little camels that they carry with them, right? The little water packs on their back. Yeah. So if they put something in there like my electrolyte lemonade, it's fantastic, and that gives them just a really streamlined energy. It has a little bit of oil. It's got some salt in there too for electrolytes, and it's just basically lemonade with a little bit of oil and salt in it. You know, but that's a fantastic marathon running or any kind of extreme sports. You know, that if you have that with you, you can keep your blood really hydrated, you know, very slippery, and you can go a lot longer, a lot faster. You know? Yeah,
and that would prevent maybe if it's like a lot of electrolytes, wouldn't that prevent like muscle cramping? And that's kind of what people do coconut water for, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's even better than coconut water because it has something in there, like that oil is really helpful, you know, to make, well, it's fuel for your liver, and your liver is what's going to give you that extra power, especially those last couple of miles if you're doing a marathon, you know. Mm-hmm. But the electrolytes are really fantastic. Of course, there's a lot of electrolytes in coconut water as well, but to actually have some fuel in there beyond... and, you know, it depends on the coconut, too. Like in Hawaii, those kind of coconuts that are wild grown, they're not that sweet, you know. They taste more like water with a little bit of flavor to it, as opposed to the Thai cocos, which are really quite sweet. They probably have a lot of sugar in them. You know, so you're gonna find a range of coconuts anyway. What would be better? I would say the Hawaiian coconuts would be a lot better for that run. Yeah. Be higher in electrolytes and more hydrating, you know?
You know, it's fun. I'm not sure if it was a video by you, but a few years ago, I feel like it was a video by you on YouTube, and it was it was the electrolyte lemonade that you're talking about, and I think there was like some frozen berries and some aloe along with olive oil, salt, and lemon. Was that the video that you did? Because I did that for a while, and man, that stuff is so good. It looks like a berry smoothie, but it tastes like lemon, like a sweet lemonade.
It could have been me. I mean,
so good.
I talk about it a lot. Yeah. You can actually put any fruit in there too with it, like what we do for tissue cleansing. I designed it actually with David and I, Dr. David Jubb and I designed it years and years ago as a like a little tiny liver flush, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're tissue cleansing, we encourage you to put like a pear in there because that also helps with evacuation and it'll make you poop really well, basically. Okay. But you can put any berry in there. You can put, like, I love frozen cherries are really good in there. Anything, really.
Yeah, and they taste amazing, too. And, yeah, they're kind of addicting, I think, for me. I love them. Yeah, they're so good.
I have one nearly every day. They're fantastic.
So the olive oil is really good, as well as the lemon, right, for your liver, doing like a little liver flush, kind of. Does it kind of contract the liver? Is that what it does?
Well... yeah, you can use olive oil in there, but it's going to have more of a salad dressing kind of a taste to it. Oh, okay. But I use coconut oil in there, or flaxseed oil works really well. Oh. You know, something that doesn't have so much of a salad dressing kind of a taste to it. But you can put olive oil in there if you want to. Yeah. The oil and salt and the lemon, of course, are really good for the liver, so it's a little bit of a liver cleanse. But it's just a really tasty beverage, and actually will help clear out the lymphatic system and Of course, it cleans out the liver a little bit. And depending on what fruit you pair it with, like a pear, of course, is going to be more healing for the intestines. But any other fruit is good in there, too. You really, like I ran a training in Oklahoma right next to this peach orchard that was just going off. And we made, like, peach electrolyte lemonade the whole time we were there. And it was, like, just heaven, like a tree-ripened, peach in there.
Oh, so good, huh?
Yeah, you can put anything in there, basically.
Oh man, so you are you were with David Jubb for many, many years, Dr. David Jubb, and you were doing a lot of work with like LifeFood, and it's interesting, you know how it goes in this kind of world. There's raw food, living food, live food. I mean, they're all different things. What is LifeFood? I've heard about it for years, but I'm curious what the difference between LifeFood and maybe living or raw food. What is the difference there?
Well, it's a pretty slim, basically it's raw living foods, right?
Okay.
But with LifeFood, we look at, we've removed a lot of the starchy foods as well, even like sprouted grains and sprouted beans and legume, that type of a thing. It's really a diet that we designed to help turn around, really severe cases of degenerative disease, like cancer and diabetes and this type of a thing. And what we found is we had to really, streamline a raw living food diet even more so to make sure that there was a lack of fast-moving sugars in there, because most of these modern diseases are really like sugar sensitivities. Cancer is a sugar sensitivity disease, for example. And it became more and more refined as we ran an outpatient fasting clinic in New York City for 10 years and a lecture series that went along with it and educating people. And what we found is that an enormous amount of our clients were actually coming to us that had, like end-stage cancers, and they'd been told by their physicians to go home and get their affairs in order. Basically you're a dead person, And they're like, well, I don't feel dead, still alive over here, Then somehow they'd find their way to us, and we were like, okay, so why don't we start with tissue cleansing? Why don't we get rid of your tumors, and let's just see what we can do here nutritionally. And many of those people are alive today, because they decided to take their health in their own hands. So LifeFood is really just a refinement of a raw living food diet. You were looking at remove anything that has, lots of like aflatoxins or anything that would have kind of mold, fungus, yeast, or bacteria to it. Peanuts and cashews come to mind, that type of a thing. Just really refining it down to a core diet that is something that we've eaten for the last 10,000 years,
Yeah. And so do you do a lot of fasting yourself these days?
I do. I'm actually just about to begin one this week. I'm going to do probably like a 5-day nutritional cleanse with my program, and do a liver and gallbladder flush. Maybe even today's like Monday. I think I'll probably start today, and then I'll do the flush on Valentine's Day. My boyfriend's out of town for a while. So I'm like, how can I get through Valentine's Day and be really empowered,
Yeah, totally.
so I'll probably do a liver and gallbladder flush on that too. Well, we cater the fast out of my little cafe here, so it makes it super easy for me. There's really no excuse to not do that. Once a month I'll do at least 4 or 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's with my program, it's all blended, fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables. So, smoothies and nut milks. We do almond nut milks and electrolyte lemonade. And I usually do some kind of a smoothie, but I put a lot of vegetables in it too. So just, there's a lot of at least 50% vegetables in there, as well as the fruit, because I really don't do that much fruit. And then the raw blended soups, of course, which are the big healers, and I could just live on the blended soup, actually. I'll do that, actually, at least one day a week without even thinking about it. I'll just have soup all day long,
Oh, man, that's so good, too, because it's really low sugar, isn't it?
Yeah, low to no sugar, actually, in most of my soups. And they were designed, for anybody in any kind of health background and profile to be able to take them, because they really have no sugar in them whatsoever, and it's just solid nutrition, and they're really, really tasty too. Even if you're not fasting, they're delicious to have with your your taquitos or whatever, whatever you're having at LifeFood Organic.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. That's so great. We got to take a quick break here, but we are with Annie Jubb, and this is a lot of fun. I don't think I mentioned her website at the beginning. I apologize for that. It's AnnieJubb.com, ANNIEJUBB.com, as well as LifeFoodOrganic.com. So we'll be right back after this break with Annie Jubb. So I'd been following a guy named Lucas Rockwood for years and years, and he's a yoga instructor and a raw foodist, and we were finally able to get him on our show on episode number 10. So if you want to listen to his interview, it's really good. But he's a really good guy. We're honored and proud to be supporting him and his products at Yoga Body Naturals, and he's got this really cool product called the Yoga Trapeze, and you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/trapeze, and that's TRAPEZE. It's really cool, like a yoga swing that you can install in your house or in your garage or anywhere. It's really, really cool. It helps to invert the body, and you could do back bends, and it's really, really an amazing thing for elongating your spine and relieving back pain. But the power of inversion is really, really critical. It's really sold and marketed as something that will help your back, but the power of inversion is really, really great. And people like David Wolfe and lots of other people talk about how powerful it is to invert the body for some portion of the day, for as often as you can. And it's really cool. It comes with a bunch of videos that teach you how to install it, and it's got a bunch of practice videos too that comes as a bonus. He gives you a 2-month supply of this Liquid Energy B, which is like $25 normally, and he's got 108 Super Juices ebook that's normally $30, and also a Yoga Trapeze chart that's normally $20 that he throws in as for free. And you can get them in purple, two-tone purple, or two-tone orange. And the cool thing is that you can try it for just $1 for 30 days. And it's really, really a cool thing. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/trapeze, you can learn more about it and watch the videos of him using it and demonstrating why it's so good and all of that stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, elongating the spine and using inversion to help heal your back and to have better posture and all of that, it's really something that you should look into. But before you look into it, listen to our interview with him in episode number 10 and just learn more about him and what his work is all about. And then go to extremehealthradio.com/trapeze if you're interested in getting this thing. And if you get it, let me know. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about it and how it's benefited you and all that. So thank you for listening. And you can also check it out in our store too. So don't forget to check it out there. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the interview. Okay, we're having a good time here with Annie Jubb from AnnieJubb.com and LifeFoodOrganic.com. So if you're in the LA area or on the West Coast, make sure to visit her website and her cafe. And Annie, I just have to tell you, I got one of these. Have you ever seen these standing desks that people have?
A standing desk. Well, that's a great idea. What is it, just like a higher desk where you stand at it rather than sitting?
Yeah, it's really great. You can actually change it from a sitting to a standing desk. And I did the first segment while I was sitting, and I thought, why am I sitting? I should be standing. It's so much more healthy. And you can just switch it from back and forth. It's really cool.
Well, it is cool, and actually I can hear it in your voice that you're standing. You know what I mean? Like there's a little more resonance to it. You know,
oh, wow.
Because your diaphragm is more open, right?
Yeah,
you can actually hear it in your voice.
it's great. Yeah, I don't know why it's I can't really do a standing desk for for 8 hours if I work for 8 hours, but I can go back and forth, and I don't know why I was just sitting for so long, but it feels so good. And some people do the treadmill desks. Have you seen those?
No, but that's also a great idea. I like it.
Yeah, I was doing some research lately, and I realized there's a lot of people talking about the dangers of sitting for so long, and they were talking about how it doesn't really matter if you get up and go for an hour workout every single day. It really doesn't matter if you sit for prolonged periods of time, and so that kind of scared me. So I went out and got one of these standing desks, and I love it so far.
Even really thinking about it, it's just like a higher desk, and that's where I do most of my work. I mean, you can actually, there's a high chair that you can sit on it nearby, but I actually prefer to stand there because you can kind of, I don't know, it's just nicer, right? You're moving, you have to get up and down so much, and That is a real problem in America too. Not only are people like carrying extra weight, but just sitting so long, it's, the blood pools a little bit, and it's stagnant. It's a situation of stagnicity, which is always a challenge, right?
Yeah, many years ago, I was diagnosed with like a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy type situation, and they were talking about the correlation between sitting and heart attacks, and they were saying, at least according to this study, it was saying it doesn't matter what your diet is, it doesn't matter what what your exercise. If you sit for like 2 and 3 hours at a time, it really increases the chance of a heart attack. So I got scared, and I got a desk that you could
got a standing desk.
Yeah,
it motivated you.
Totally.
Well, actually, it does matter about the diet, but most heart attacks occur within 3 hours of a high-fat diet. But in America, we don't draw those correlations. But I would say probably embracing that study too, a high-fat meal and then sitting for several hours. That pools the blood. The blood's also very slow-moving and viscous at that point too, especially after that high-fat meal, and the heart has to work harder, Well,
do you think that there's an issue with the type of fat, like animal fat?
Oh yeah,
versus
we're talking rancid fats.
Okay.
Well, any kind of rancid fats, even vegetable oils that are rancid. A lot of times in America, it's going to be, animal fats, or anything that's deep fried, any brown, crunchy food. There's probably a rancid oil in the background that made it that way.
Oh man!
And all of that makes the blood very, very viscous. And viscous blood is, that's the problem right there too, because the heart has to push things through rather than pump it through.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a doctor on recently, and this really kind of scared me, because for many, many years I did like a raw food diet for, I think from like 2003 to 2010, and I was 100% raw. And then, recently I've been doing a little bit of animal food here and there, and, but still doing a lot of raw food. And we had a guest on, you probably heard of him. What is his name? Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And he's a big proponent of just completely raw or vegetarian and that kind of thing. And so he said something that really was interesting to me, and it's kind of one of those things that sticks with you. And he said that when you eat any animal or flesh foods, it damages it damages the endothelial lining in your arteries. And as a result of that, your body can't produce nitric oxide, I think. And because your body can't produce nitric oxide, it can't eat up the plaque that's in your arteries. And so when I asked him, I said, do all animal foods, is there a difference between, raw milk versus regular milk or grass-fed and all these different distinctions? But he was really adamant about saying all animal food does this. Have you heard that? And do you think that's true, or what are your thoughts about that?
I have, I've heard a lot of this kind of thing over the years, and I think that I think it's more of an enthusiastic thumbs up for a vegetable-based diet, a plant-based diet. And I think that there is a huge difference in the type of animal proteins that we're actually talking about here. The difference between like a pasture-raised chicken or, a chicken that grew up in Auschwitz, right?
Yeah, right.
In one of these massive, 100,000 birds to a cage type of a thing, or in these warehouses that they grow these animals in. I know there's a huge difference in that kind of a flesh food, and one is going to have much more of a residue than the others. And I think that it's really important to make that distinction. And I think that I'm not sure if it's, if this person's enthusiasm is just kind of getting, or where his research is actually coming from, to be honest. I think that it's important to, the push that I have right now, and what I've always had with the vegetarian diet, is that the animals are actually humanely raised, and that they have a good life and die a victorious death. Is basically what I would say. That's what I want for myself. That's what I want for everybody else. know. And just in the last 20 years, I've seen that huge, difference start to really, show up now, even on, menus and restaurants all over this city. For example, there's pasture-raised or grass-fed animals. They're returning more to their natural diet, and that's become a big, huge push. And so I really want to just encourage that. I think that that's the most important thing. And and then there's a big debate too about whether you can really be vegetarian all your life and be as healthy as you want to be. And I think that's a really important piece to have a look at as well. I was hugely vegetarian for about 15 years and didn't even eat an egg during that time period. And then all of a sudden my body shifted. I started dreaming about egg yolks, for example. That was, I'm not kidding. And I'm a lucid dreamer anyway, so I'm like eating egg yolks in my dreams every night. I'm like, do you think my body is trying to tell me something here?
Yeah, totally.
And I didn't even eat them for like another 2 years. It took me, like 2 years to get my mind around that,
Right.
And then, of course, I found, really happy hens and beautiful places all over the world, and that's an egg yolk that I will eat. But I think it's really important to be more instinctive in what I think I was a very happy vegetarian for all those years, and I really didn't want to be any kind of a meat eater, an egg eater, or anything like that, and yet my body was demanding that, so I think it's important to be very instinctive, and I think that a lot of, vegetarian and veganism, it can be done right for periods of time, and then it also needs to be intuitive too. If your body's really calling for some kind of animal proteins, I think that's really something that you should really honor,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Which sounds like that's what you've done, right?
Yeah, I've kind of branched out and did a little bit of the meats and things, but I tell you, it's weird. It's because it seems like no matter what you do, there's something that's going to be wrong, because then I hear, I'm sure you know of this guy, this fellow Agenus Vonderplanet, who talks about eating raw meat, and, so then you think about the cooking process and how do you cook it where it's okay, maybe you boil it versus frying it or things like that. And so I feel like with animal food, there's a lot more that you have to worry about, to keep it, if it's bad for you, to keep it from not killing you, or if it's good for you, to keep it from not being as good for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And this debate is going to go on long after you and I are dead. You know what I mean? Like, it's been going on for hundreds of years, if not thousands, and it's going to continue on too.
Yeah.
And I think that, maybe I'm just getting older too, but I just feel like a lot of that righteousness in my conviction in like the one diet, the raw food diet being the totally best way and the only way. Because I've just seen that a variation of diet is really important right throughout your life,
Right.
I teach, I do this cleanse over at this yoga school here called Yoga West, and, they're all, vegetarian yogis, or they're really guilty, meat eaters, what I mean? There's this whole range to it, and I'm like, one of the things I talk to them is try to desensitize a lot of that, because they're eating, beans and grains, which is, obviously not something that I'm going to really be forwarding so much of myself, right? But yeah, some basmati rice every once in a while, is that really going to hurt you? No, And I think the biggest part of it is to really be instinctive with it, and also, to have just a lot of, fresh, seasonal, locally grown, vegetables in your diet as well, and you're going to be okay.
Right.
And the, if you need some animal proteins, and that's really important, find the healthiest that you can around you, and then try to, be at one with it when you're eating it too, because like eating something that you're feeling really guilty or bad about is not a good thing, whatever it is. And I used to feel guilty about a bowl of rice and beans, like back in the day, I'm like, oh God, I hope somebody doesn't see me eating rice and beans,
It's like the food Nazis around the corner,
Right, and there's always somebody like, that's not raw food, or whatever, and I laugh at myself, because I think the whole thing is just ridiculous, and yet we all went through it, or people are going through it, perhaps some of your listeners right now, so I think that, the biggest thing is to do the best you can, eat a lot of plant-based food, if it calls for, animal proteins, find the healthiest, happiest, most naturally, harvested animals that you can. And, it's something that had a good life and died a victorious death, right?
Yeah, I think that's good. For me, at least, I know it's a big deal to really make, really fine distinctions, because general platitudes are really easy to make for people, like, vegetarian is right or eating meat is right, but there's so many different kinds of meat. But like for me and my wife, I found a big difference in just, saying a prayer before we eat and being thankful to God for everything that we have, and being so gracious and in gratitude for everything. I think that really makes a huge difference, because like what's his name, Dr. Emoto, talked about the water and how that changes, and all about that, and I feel like the same goes with food, right? Doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And there'll be some guy with a cool electron microscope that comes along and photographs the prayer over the food. And it also, just setting that intention, and that's why we've always prayed over food, right? Every culture on the planet has some kind of a way of acknowledging the gratitude that goes into, like I love what they say in Japan. It's itadakimasu, which means bless every hand that touched this food, from the person who planted the rice all the way through, and it's just like a little blessing of all the way down that chain of who's made that food possible for you,
Yeah.
And that gratitude, I think we'll find some way to be able to measure that as well, which is what this guy's done with water, and you see how it does change things so dramatically when he had like love in any language on the water, and it was just this highly structured, floral, beautiful, shape of the water crystals in there, and then they put like hatred on it or something. It was just this disorganized, chaotic, and so that's why, in my work too with behavior physiology, David and I used to always talk about this too, about how the words that we use can either have a positive or a negative flow of electrons, right? So if you say, no, I won't, right? So no and won't are both negative, and I is always positive. You could say the same thing like I will not. I is positive, will is positive, and not is negative. You know what I mean? So like you could have more positive or more negative in your language just by the way that you, the language that you actually choose, because our blood is structured like this, right? So the person who's using a lot more positive, forward-moving language is going to have more more highly structured and beautiful look to their blood, because blood is water, basically, right?
Yeah.
And somebody who's really negative, they're going to have much more chaotic looking structure to their blood. And it really does have to do with language, at the bottom of it, which is your intention and who you really are at your core.
I loved your videos that you did with David Jubb back. It was probably back when you were in New York, but there was some really great videos about, what do you call this kind of languaging technique?
Well, we call that whole body of knowledge whole brain functioning.
That's right. And you have some, I think it's on our website. I think I put a bunch of those on our website, embedded those videos, and I think you got about 8 of them or something. And they are so
Yeah, we actually
so
had a weekly show in New York on Manhattan Cable for like 2 years, and so we put out quite a few of those. And actually, at the time we were making them, I didn't realize the power of the internet, that they were going to live forever. I would have done a better job with them if I felt that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're out there too. They're on YouTube. You can check it out. The name of the show is Universe Inside Our Mind.
That's right.
And we talk a lot about whole brain functioning. We cover nutrition as well. But behavior physiology is always one of my passions. It's just so interesting how we create behavior, how we form conclusions out of, reading each other's body language and this type of thing.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I think I have those on our website too, so I'll link to those if anyone is interested in those. But it's just so funny with the water thing and the praying over the food. Isn't it just so much like our Western mind to, we don't, believe in this stuff, or we don't pray over our food anymore, but, we need to read a book like that, Messages in Water, in order to see it, so that we can really believe, so we can start, blessing our water and our food again. It's just it's funny when like ancient other cultures just do it because they know it works, and they don't need to see this stuff like we do. It's funny.
Oh yeah, you try to explain it to anybody from an indigenous culture, and they're like, well, why do you need to have a picture of it? Can't you just, don't you just know that that's true? But in America, we're so funny. We're very, very left brain, like, prove it to me, like, I want to know that it works. And like I was reading this funny little piece the other day about how a bunch of Western doctors went to China quite a few years ago, actually. It was more like 15, 20 years ago. And then they did open heart surgery on this woman, just using no anesthesia, but they were just using acupuncture needles, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so there she was with just a bunch of needles in her face and around her body, and they opened up her heart and went in there and did whatever they were going to do, and they sewed her back up again. And the doctors from America were all standing around going, wow. And then so afterwards they were all meeting with the physicians or the surgeon who had just done the surgery, and some of his colleagues, and the Americans were like, wow, that's just fascinating. Do you have any research we can read about that? And the Chinese doctors are like laughing. They're like, are you kidding? Didn't you just see what we did?
Oh
Like, they wouldn't even believe what their own eyes had just witnessed. They wanted to have something that they could read over.
Gosh,
You know?
I feel like we've gone so far that direction, haven't we? It's crazy.
Yeah, we have. But that's our job. You know what I mean? You look at America, it's such a new country, and the job is to, like, prove everything.
Yeah.
So we have to have a certain amount of doubt, you know, in order to be able to prove things, right?
Yeah.
The things that all indigenous cultures take for granted, it's like now we get to prove that. And, you know, I've seen it in my own work, too. When I first started out, we termed, you know, our brand of raw living foods LifeFood, L-I-F-E, Life Food Nutrition. And, you know, people say, what is that? And I said, well, I have to demonstrate a measurable life force energy in that food. And, you know, I'm talking about this, whatever, we talked about it for 3 or 4 years or 5 years, and then I found that they had this camera that can photograph it, the Curlian camera, right? And so I ended up, like, you know, hiring this guy who had a Curlian camera to go out and take pictures of food, you know, living food. And there it is. Now I've got a picture. I can show the picture wherever I go, and I say, this is the difference between raw or living food and live food and cooked food, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was sort of a vindication for me, but it made it so much easier to talk to Americans or anybody in the Western world about it, because it wasn't just this airy-fairy, you know, concept of, you know, auras or whatever. It's like, no, look, there's a measurable life force right here. You can take a picture of it, you know?
Yeah, it's so fascinating. We need all that in Western culture. But we are with Annie Jubb. I got to take a short break here again, but I got a lot of stuff I want to talk with you about. I want to talk with you about urine therapy, and you've had some amazing success with hepatitis C and ADHD with your liver gallbladder flushes. So, man, there's a lot to get to. So let me run this break, and we'll be right back with Annie Jubb. And her website, again, is anniejubb.com, and let's see, lifefoodorganic.com. So we'll be right back after this short break. So there's no real way to avoid toxins or chemicals in our daily life. It seems like we're exposed to them no matter what we do in our lives, from paint fumes to mercury fillings, coal-fired plants, perfumes, soaps, off-gassing of carpets in our houses, and genetically modified foods, and foods that are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, the xenoestrogens in plastics and car exhaust, secondhand smoke, even your dry cleaning and laundry detergents, even your mattresses have chemicals inside them that outgas. So getting these toxins and chemicals and poisons out of your bloodstream and out of your fat cells is going to be really critical moving forward in our society, because it seems like every year there's more and more chemicals that keep becoming introduced with new products in the market. So I would consider getting one of these far infrared saunas. We've got a great sauna developed by Phil Wilson, and I've known about his work for many, many years, and I'm so proud to be offering his sauna on our website. And he's been in this business since 1975. And this sauna is really great because it slows the aging process. It helps with weight loss and burning calories. I think you can burn like 600 calories in 15 or 20 minutes, and it helps to cleanse the skin. It improves your sleep and helps to prevent illnesses like flus and colds, as well as energizing the body. And it's great for improving blood circulation and promoting cellular renewal, as well as increasing metabolism and inducing profuse sweating. And it's really, really great. And the great thing is, too, is you don't produce any lactic acid. So you can sweat without producing any of this lactic acid that you would normally produce if you lifted weights or went for a big long run. So if you're interested in this, you can check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. It's great because it sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes, and it's portable, and it's super easy to clean. It's got low electromagnetic field radiation coming off of it, and it produces energy and heat inside the sauna evenly. It's great machine. So if you're interested in sweating like this for only 15 minutes a day, it's great. It requires 0 preheating. It's got a 1-year warranty, and Phil Wilson is a great guy. We're so proud to be offering his saunas on our website. So if you're interested, check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. Or you could check it out in our store, and it's $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really a good deal, because many of the saunas out there, you can check them out. They're in the thousands of dollars, $2,000 to $4,000. So this is great. You can buy it through PayPal. You don't even need a PayPal account. It's 100% secure. So consider doing this if you're interested in living a long, healthy, disease-free life. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. All right, we're having a great time here with Annie Jubb from LifeFoodOrganic.com as well as AnnieJubb.com, so make sure to check out her websites. And I feel like we have so much to get to. I want to talk with you, Annie, a little bit about urine therapy. Are you a big fan of that? Because I've been doing it quite a bit recently, and I've been really liking it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's a nice technique, especially when you don't have a lot of other resources available to you. You know, so it's very misunderstood too. So,
yeah.
You know, urine therapy is. It's, you know, taking a little bit of your own fresh urine and then, you know, reintroducing it through orally, you know, so you bring it back through. There's a lot of good reasons to do it. There's a lot of reasons, you know, not to do it as well, you know, especially anybody who's taking any pharmaceutical drugs of any kind. It's important to not do urine therapy with your own, you know, urine at least.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you been doing? Like catching a little bit in the first urine of the morning?
Yeah, just midstream kind of thing. And then what I do is, because I'm really averse to the flavor and all that stuff, but I have a pretty clean diet, so it's really not that bad. But I mix it with like a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I don't know if that's good or bad. What do you think?
I don't know. It probably makes it easier to go down, right?
Yeah, you can't taste it at all, so that's cool.
Yeah, well, it's a lifesaver, especially if you're, you know, stuck on a mountaintop somewhere. But it's a really nice little thing, too, in the same way that composting your garden is. So it reintroduces, like, human growth hormone, and that's why you would do a little bit of your first catch of the morning. So it's a good, you know, it's good for people like that who need a little more hormonal support. Yeah, it'll you know, save your life if you need it, right?
Do you think it's, you know, very, very powerful? Because like a lot of people talk about it being like a really great longevity thing and things like that. I imagine it would be, I guess.
Well, again, it depends on the person, you know. People that are leaching a lot of hormones anyway, it could be really helpful to reintroduce that, you know, throughout the day. The thing is, it's a really taboo subject, you know, so even though a lot of the medicines that we have today, you know, Premarin is based on pregnant mare urine, that's what it's short for, and that most of the estrogen therapies, you know, that were so popular during the 80s and 90s, and now they're sort of running out of steam, you know, but for 30 years it was the most prescribed, you know, pharmaceutical in the United States for sure. And it's really just, you know, hormones that they'd gotten out of, you know, pregnant horses.
Right.
So, so if you're going to do some kind of a urine therapy, it's good to do it in your own species.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, so that's a way of recycling your own hormones, especially human growth hormone.
Yeah, because I remember David Jubb was really big on or maybe he still is, right?
He'll talk your ear off about it.
Yeah.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I mean, it is a really interesting subject, and it is taboo, and I think it's just like we're talking about with the water. I think it's just because of our Western culture, we're not used to these kind of old folklore type of things, are we?
Well, and it's taboo for a reason. They want you to buy the Premarin, and they don't want you to, recycle your own hormones.
Yeah.
There's a monetary incentive behind it.
Yeah.
And then also, Americans, they just can never leave anything alone. They just want to, keep playing with it until they get, something down into a tablet form. But you go right around the world, and urine therapy's been done forever, and it's still being done today.
Is urine? Does it affect the liver and the gallbladder and things like that, or is it pretty? I guess I don't know what it would do. I guess it would just kind of bypass that, wouldn't it? Like coconut oil, or?
Well, yeah, no, it's not necessarily great. I mean, it's not bad for the liver at all, but it's more of better for the digestive tract itself, right? So kind of more implants, things that are going to be, beneficial bacteriums and that type of a thing. And in the same way that composting your garden is good that way.
Okay.
Right? You want to have some fermented vegetables in there. It starts the culture of the humus, getting going and so on. So that's mostly what urine therapy is really good for when you ingest it. But things specifically good for the liver and gallbladder are going to be, oil and lemon and citrus, that type of a thing.
Yeah, so is all citrus beneficial? Because a lot of people do like the liver flushes with, gosh, what is it? What's that fruit?
Grapefruit juice?
Yeah, grapefruit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for years I was, making sure that everybody just did it with lemon juice. And then, and it's really hard to gag down that oil with the lemon juice. It makes it like twice as hard.
Yeah.
And then at one point I thought, well, I'm just going to try it with like half lemon and half grapefruit juice. And then you mix it together with the oil rather than doing, chaser shots or whatever, because I've tried it every way you possibly can think of.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more palatable. And, I'm asking people to drink a lot of olive oil. So if you can make it as palatable as possible. So now I say like half lemon and half grapefruit juice. And that's how when we cater the liver and gallbladder flush out of my cafe, that's what we do. We mix it half with grapefruit and half with lemon juice. And it just makes it kind of like a creamy grapefruit juice is what it tastes like, Of course, the oil is going to separate out, but you just keep shaking it up and drinking it down, and I can get anybody to drink it then. Whereas before, it was just those bold, courageous, usually people that are, running for their lives, trying to get their health back in order again. But now I can get anybody to drink it, and they really don't complain about it that much at all. So that was my goal, so I've reached that goal.
So do you do a flush every so often, or do you do kind of like those little chasers every day as maintenance, or what kind of things do you do in terms of that?
I do an electrolyte lemonade almost every day, which is kind of a maintenance, and then I do a really proper liver and gallbladder flush. Depends, but anywhere from like twice to 6 or 7 times a year, depending.
Okay.
Yeah. I usually, I do a lot of one-on-one work with people, like if a client's flying me, wherever I went to Australia last year for 3 weeks and worked with a client down there who had ALS.
Oh, wow.
And so I was fasting with him, and we did, probably 3 liver and gallbladder flushes in the 14 days, maybe even more than that. We were doing them every other day, just get as much done as possible. So I always fast with my clients when I do that. And then, and then it's just really easy for me to do anyway, because I have all these chefs at the restaurant that do it, that make all the make all the beverages for me and everything. So, it makes it super easy.
Yeah. So you were talking about the hepatitis C with some guy, and then ADHD with people. That's amazing. Oh yeah.
In fact, I'm going to do a little video blog on each one of these 2 profiles because they're really cool. One of them is a woman who had a history of drug and alcohol abuse. And, of course, she came out of, she was using needles and stuff. So she came out of that experience. She's been sober now for 5 years. But she came out of that experience with hepatitis C. And the only way that the Western, doctors know how to treat that is a year of pretty intense interferon treatment. And which always leaves people, desperately depressed, So after that, she came here, and she actually is a family friend, and I hired her at the cafe, and she was my manager for about a year. And during that time period, we probably did 15 liver and gallbladder flushes with her,
Wow.
And then she left. She's been in Seattle now for the last year, and she's probably done about 4 or 5 more. So let's say maybe 20 liver and gallbladder flushes. And I also got her off antidepressants too by using like a colloidal zinc and magnesium and whatever. There's a nutritional solution to, getting people off of those antidepressant drugs, right?
Wow.
So she's totally clean. She's off all of that now. And then she just called in a couple of weeks ago, and she has 0 hepatitis C in her body. They're like, you're cured, and we've never seen that before.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, she's got a pretty clean, very clean diet now, too. She did almost all 100% raw living foods while she was here, and she's carried a lot of that forward with her, which she's been in Seattle for the last year. But the liver and gallbladder flushes are just crucial for getting your liver back into good order again. And, I would never say let's do this, but if we had an opportunity to open her up, like Westerners like to do, and have a look in there, I can pretty much guarantee you that a lot of that scarification has also been regenerated and healed as well.
Isn't that so great? Gosh, there's so many. It's so great to know that there's these options out there for people. I just wish more people knew about them, but man, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's not going to get anybody rich but the farmer, and I think that's a great idea. Let's get the farmers rich,
Yeah.
But it's really, your dietary choices every day are very important. The kind of oils that you eat, very healing for the liver as well, all, cold-pressed organic oils. And then just, being good about making sure that you do some house cleaning, like that liver and gallbladder flush. You can do a couple of them in a 14-day period of time. The whole process is outlined in my book, LifeFood Recipe Book. And really that's been the core program that has turned around so many degenerative diseases of our clients over the years. And And even if you don't do any tissue cleansing, like we're going to talk about there's a little boy who I did a 15-minute health reading with right before Christmas, so it was just, a couple of weeks ago, right?
Uh-huh.
And a really cute little kid, and he was really, rambunctious, and his school teachers were recommending that he goes on, some kind of ADHD medication because he was just too hard to handle in the schools and couldn't focus and was distracting other little kids and whatever. So his mom brought him to me, and I just, talked to him for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I put him on a lot of the same things that I would put somebody on for, to get them off of antidepressants, like zinc is a natural mood enhancer, magnesium is really good for, important in opening up 300 different detox systems of the body, but for the neurology, it's really important for us to be able to focus, and concentrate. So I put him on like 4 or 5 different nutritional supplements, and his mom came and sat with me a few days ago, and she was like in tears. She said, I wish we'd done this 6 months ago because now they're really thinking about holding him back a year in school. But the teacher and the principal, everybody brought her in and said, this is a different kid. Like, what's going on here? Like, you can focus, he can play well and stuff, but because he's missed so much of the schoolwork for the first 6 months of this year, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That now he has to catch up. And so she was like, God, they're going to hold him back. And I said, well, give him a chance to catch up. We still, it's like February now, so doesn't the school year end in like June? And she said, yeah. And I said, she goes, but this is at the point where they decide whether they're going to hold him back or not. I said, well, give him another couple of weeks, like all he has to do is catch up, and now he can focus. He's got the mental, nutrient behind him to be able to really focus on what he's doing. So hopefully they'll give him that,
Yeah.
Because it's so can be very emotionally stunting, to hold a child back, even though he's 7 years old. You know what I mean? He's still at the age of reason where he's thinking, gee, what's going on? How come I have to be back doing this again next year? So hopefully they'll give him the opportunity to just catch up, and he can move along with his class,
Yeah.
But all of that was just nutritional,
That's amazing. Don't they say that the liver is the most important organ in the body? Have you heard that?
I say it all the time.
Yeah, you
for
say
me,
that.
For me, it really is the most important organ of the body. It's the most regenerative, right? So if you surgically remove, 2/3 of it or half of it, let's say that way, the body's already going to start to regenerate part of that. It's what gives you energy, So it's really important to eat a lot of vegetables and food that your liver recognizes. A lot of modern world foods, high fructose corn syrup and things like that, which is in just about everything, and even wheat, breaks down into sugar in the body.
Uh-huh.
But all of those things the liver can't really hang on to very long, and so that, the liver converts it to sugar. The sugar sprints out into the bloodstream, and then what happens is the pancreas has to get involved and start to produce insulin to slow that fire down a little bit, to slow that sugar down.
Okay.
So that's insulin. That's what sets up what's called insulin resistance diseases, which is the root of all degenerative diseases that you see, all the modern world diseases that you see around here.
Jeez. Yeah, I imagine. So the liver is really key, and so I didn't know where to go. So with the liver gallbladder flush, do you do? Like, how many ounces of oil are you drinking at a time?
I usually recommend 8 ounces.
Okay.
And then you're mixing that with 8 ounces of straight lemon juice and then 16 ounces of grapefruit juice.
Oh, okay.
So if you mix that little cocktail together and keep shaking it up, I always recommend that you do 3 days of tissue cleansing first. And that includes, just all raw blended foods, basically. And usually with a laxative to that, too, because Americans tend to be more constipated, and our goal is to really clean out the entire length of the intestine during the 3 days. And it usually takes about 3 days to do that. And at the same time, you're flooding the body with nutrient. It's not a water fast. You really are taking in all the, juices, but also blended smoothies and, raw soups and this type of a thing. And then on day 4, you sit down and drink your olive oil, lemon, and grapefruit juice cocktail. And then some other things that go along with it. But basically, the next morning, you're going to shit out a ton of gallstones.
Yeah.
And all that material is in the bile ducts and in the bile bladder, which is the gallbladder. And they're loaded with bacteria, so they're going to float on the surface of the toilet water. And so you can have a real science project kind of a look at what came out.
Right.
And it's very different from fecal debris. I mean, it's going to have kind of a fecal odor to it, or it's been in there for a really long time. Usually it takes years and years and years to build up those gallstones. But you'll really notice that they're loaded with bacteria, and there'll be bile salt colors, like from like emerald green to, bilirubin colors, or the kind of root beer, yellow to root beer colored,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
wow.
It's a science project.
Yeah, well, that's the best kind, right? To do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. So we got to wrap up the show here, but so all of that can be found if people want to get the LifeFood recipe book. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And do you see people, if someone's listening to this and they want to, speak with you and work with you, can they contact you and work with you that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of clients one-on-one, and they can just send me an email, Annie Jubb at mac.com,
Okay.
and I set it up through email. And occasionally I run residential retreats too. I'm just looking at a new retreat site later on this year, so you can check out anniejubb.com, and I'll be posting that. But that's a wonderful way in a group and supported environment to do a liver and gallbladder flush, with 40 of your closest friends.
Yeah,
We'll be close friends at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, totally. That's so great. And then you got your cafe as well, and that's in LA. But what are the streets and where is that?
Yeah, it's in Hollywood. It's on Cahuenga and Sunset, and it's right across from probably the last record store on the planet, Amoeba Records. So it's it's in a good location. But you can check it out on our website, which is lifefoodorganic.com.
Oh, that is so cool. Annie, would you mind hanging on as I close out the show?
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on another edition here of Extreme Health Radio. It was a lot of fun with Annie Jubb. Man, lots of great information there, and I hope you got a lot of good stuff out of it. Visit her website, lifefoodorganic.com and anniejubb.com, and I'll have those all linked up on this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/61. And I want to thank Mike Adams for having us on Natural News Radio on his network. That's a blessing to be on there, and that's a lot of fun. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to follow us on Facebook if you would like. We've got a growing community on there. That would be a lot of fun. Pass it on to your friends, and if you'd like to donate to our efforts, that would be great. We're trying to make sure this show stays free, and we're accepting donations to do that. So if you have any amount of money, $1 or $2 even, that would be excellent to help pay all of our bills here and keep our show free. So thank you again, everyone, and it's good to be back on the mics.